was held about a year ago. So
Yeah, I think it was in
March
it
or
was the middle of
February.
February.
Yeah. Yep. So as far as like an annual retreat, I think we're due and could schedule one within the next month or so, depending on availability and when folks would be able to meet. Maybe at least maybe a month out to give time to prepare and come up with an agenda. So I know we talked about maybe making some amendments to the UDO could be a focus of the retreat. Were there topic areas that folks wanted to like learn more about, or like invited guests? Like last year, we talked a lot about equity, and we had folks from the equity office come and speak, and it was kind of like a way for commissioners to learn a little bit more and kind of think through some of those topics together. Is there another topic that would be interesting to the commission, that like an education piece, or is it more of like a work session around aspects of the UDO? And
yeah, I know we talked about a couple of different things, like maybe even having work sessions, or perhaps it was a mid-month work session that we would have in our normal mid-month meeting time, where we might talk about in depth, make it an hour short presentation. And then I know one of the topics, or one of the thoughts I had, was perhaps if we did a retreat at like a neighborhood community center.
Yes.
And could we have a topic that we tied into that as well? That way it was, out in the community where we could also learn and think about one or perhaps more topics that were relevant. So.
Yeah, I think that could be a good approach, and then maybe the work sessions happen after that going forward, and we have a better sense of kind of what we want to dig into as far as actually rolling up our sleeves and doing some draft review and stuff for the UDO and other aspects, where this might be more like a educational kind of piece where we can get out in the community a little bit more. And, if folks had any suggestions about places or topics or ideas, or
did you have something, Kim, that you wanted to mention as far as retreat topics or anything? I wasn't sure if you were.
No, I was just thinking if we could tie it into some of the stuff that we put on, the yearly, the annual report. Sorry. And just related to that if possible, but I'm open.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think we've got some topics that we've put into the annual report, topics we've discussed, and I think that's how we looked at it last year too, as far as scheduling was. And I am horrible at this. I'm hoping you're better, Will. What's the thing where you propose a bunch of dates and have everybody? 1, 2, 3, 4.
There you
yes,
go.
Thank you. I don't use them, so I think if we could do something like that to throw out and maybe look at March. I think maybe at this point, maybe end of February, but I'm thinking that might start to coincide too close with the regular meeting.
Right, maybe it could be the second week in March or something. Give a little, so we're not meeting twice in a week or something.
If that seems pretty good to everybody.
Yeah, I'd be glad to help organize some kind of doodle poll to figure out availability, and then maybe we just talk in the meantime about potential topics and places, and I think we have definitely a few work items on the annual report to follow up on, so maybe that's a good way to kind of educate around if it's things like stormwater or traffic in certain neighborhoods or whatever. I could certainly reach out to some city staff, other individuals or groups who might be able to join and give a presentation or something like that. Bring some experts in and can talk more about it.
I think that would be great. One other thing too, I thought, not necessarily tied directly to the retreat, I know there's been some new city hires in the planning department. It would be great just to put names and faces to those people. I actually met Kendra the other day. It sounds like her background is very interesting and perhaps really timely for some of the stuff that Asheville's starting to wrestle with. So, I was just very intrigued
Yep.
with kind of where her focus might go.
Yeah, I'll definitely open up the opportunity for folks from our department to join, especially newer folks, to kind of get more exposure and.
Yeah, or even just drop in at the pre-meeting and say, hey, you know, 5 minutes and,
Yep. Cool. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and we will officially get started at 5:06. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 1st, 2023 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Asheville. Planning and Zoning Commission will hear public comments on items which are listed on the agenda. We will begin this evening's meeting with roll call. Mr. Palmquist?
Chair Archibald,
Present?
Vice Chair Levi,
Present.
Commissioner Simmons,
Present.
and Commissioner Barton.
Present.
We have a quorum. Commissioners Faircloth, Bubenik, and Hoke are not present.
Okay. And I just had a text from Commissioner Faircloth. He is on his way, stuck in traffic, unfortunately.
Okay.
So, the next item, or the first item on our agenda, is administrative. It is the approval of the minutes from the January 4th, 2023 meeting. Were there any questions or comments regarding those minutes? I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So the two items that we do have on our agenda, both are legislative public hearings. They are both zoning map amendments. They're straight rezonings. These are not, conditional zoning or anything. They're fairly simple. The first one is a request to rezone property located at 234 Hendersonville Road from Office 1 and Highway Business to Highway Business. The property is identified as PIN 96477775785 in the Buncombe County Tax Record. Property owner is Milan Biltmore II, Inc., and the contact is Robert Ost, Jr. Planner coordinating review is Will Palmquist.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Will Palmquist with Planning and Urban Design. I'll be presenting the background and recommendation for this rezoning petition for the property at 234 Hendersonville Road. Here you can see an aerial of the site. I apologize, it's kind of blurry, but gives some context of the location as well as the vicinity within Asheville, just south of Biltmore Village, near the roundabout with Hendersonville Road and I-40. You can see the other commercial uses to the north along Hendersonville Road, and then the residential neighborhood to the east of the site. So as mentioned, the site is currently zoned a combination of office and highway business, and the proposal is to rezone the site to highway business to remove that dual zoning split category. Just more background on the site. It's 1.19 acres and currently used for a lodging use. Here you can see the future land use as designated in the Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan, which is urban corridor, and no change would be needed to that designation for this rezoning request. So in regards to the proposal's comprehensive or consistency with Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan, it is consistent with the future land use map of urban corridor, which seeks in part to address the needs of commercial development along major thoroughfares. Automobile-oriented development is prevalent within this district, and a wide range of commercial uses is permitted. The proposal and rezoning also supports a couple of goals in the plan, including to encourage responsible growth by prioritizing growth and development within designated growth areas, and also to facilitate real estate development that maximizes public benefit by establishing accessible and well-connected commercial nodes consistent with the strategies outlined in the plan's growth areas. Staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning, and I'm glad to answer any questions. We also have the applicant with us here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Palmquist. Any questions from commissioners right now for staff? No. Let's go ahead and hear from the applicant, Mr. Ost.
So yeah, presentation, so yeah, just the two fingers
Two
to,
fingers.
yep, you got it.
Just in case the technology fails, I've got paper copies for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Bob Ost. I'm with the law firm of McGuire Wood and Bissett, and I represent the owner of this property. Monarch Hotel is right back here. Technically, his corporation owns it, but he's the principal in the corporation. I'd also like to thanks to the planning staff, especially Will and Tyler Kelly for their guidance on this. I don't have a lot to add to Mr. Palmquist's presentation regarding how this request complies with and meets several goals, multiple goals of the comprehensive plan. I really couldn't have said it any better, except that I really can't find a way that this proposed rezoning is contrary to the comprehensive plan. But I do want to show you some of the more practical reasons for seeking this rezoning. Did anybody get a chance to visit the site before this meeting? Well, first of all, as Mr. Palmquist explained, it is, you can see the word subject crosses two zoning classifications there. It is split zoned, and that zoning line approximates St. Paul Street if it was extended out to Hendersonville Road. And you remember how from the aerial of the hotel, how the structure is kind of divided in the middle with different projections. And then it's also, you can see the subject there, it is also in the fairly recently adopted hotel overlay district, and it's in District A for that, so large hotels are allowed there. These are just some views of Hendersonville Road, or as it's just about to transition to Biltmore Avenue. These were taken on Monday morning. It was fairly slow, but you can still see there's some traffic out there. This is looking south towards the I-40 intersection. But I also want to give you an idea of just how challenging the site is. It slopes steeply from north to south up towards the I-40 interchange. This is a photograph showing that. This is looking downhill towards Texas Roadhouse, with which the hotel shares an access. It doesn't have a direct driveway onto Hendersonville Road. It shares an access with Texas Roadhouse. That's correct, right? So it's got that feature. And then these two photos show the steepness of the driveway to get up to the back of the structure. It slopes steeply up from west to east to the back of the property, and you can see the incline there. What you see towards this is a picture from the parking lot, and over that wall and up the hill is Summit Street, which is a residential street, but it would be, from an engineering standpoint, it would be extremely difficult to get access to Summit Street, and it's not allowed by the code anyhow. So there's no issue with the hotel use intruding onto the residential use along Summit Street. And here's the even more dramatic illustration of the grade differential between this hotel property and the adjacent uses. This is the northeast corner, which is, you got Summit Street on the left, and then the small office use up on the right. And that office use also has no direct access onto Hendersonville Road. It gets its access from Summit Street. I've also included a couple of code provisions in here. These are not all the differences, but You can see there in the hotel overlay district where there's an attempt to resolve the conflicts between the underlying zoning classifications, but it doesn't resolve all of them. And in some cases, there's some pretty significant conflicts, as you might imagine, between office zoning and highway business zoning. And if you're not in the if for some reason Mr. Patel decides to use the property for something other than a hotel, the differences between office and highway business become pretty stark. And so it's this the office zone is the purpose of it is basically for small development with activities during daylight, which a hotel doesn't really do. Highway business, there's language referring to a shared parking and access. As I pointed out earlier, Clarion does not have direct access onto Hendersonville Road. So this rezoning is actually going to solve a lot of problems. There are there are some other more practical problems had to do with getting financing for any kind of improvement or redevelopment of this property if it's split zoned. I'm not exactly sure how this situation came into being. I thought it might have been a result of the citywide rezoning that occurred with the adoption of the UDO back in 1997, and that I might be partially responsible for that reason. But Mr. Patel tells me no, that it was that the hotel was constructed back in 1992 before the UDO was amended, and that it was initially two parcels that were in separate zones. And they got the permits for and built the hotel and recombined the parcels, but never cleaned up the zoning, which is the kind of thing that happened a lot like that back then. And so this is just an effort, now that the hotel overlay is in place, this is an effort to clean up the zoning, make it easier to use the property for any reason or to maintain it in its current use. And so we would ask, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It eliminates the split zoning situation, eliminates or reduces the nonconformity. It really doesn't get, as you pointed out at the beginning of the meeting, Mr. Archibald, it really doesn't get, these are straightforward. This is a straightforward zoning request, and it really doesn't get much more straightforward than this. We'd ask that you find it consistent with the comprehensive plan for the reasons stated by Mr. Palmquist and in the staff report, and recommend that the rezoning to the City Council. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ost. Any questions, comments from other commissioners? Yeah, I know there have been, I think in my 5.5 years, most rezonings like this have been an attempt to clean up, split zone properties that have occurred over the years. So, yeah, this seems like just another one of those.
It is. It was not the result of the adoption of the UDO, but apparently it goes back even further than that. So,
thank you. If there are no questions from commission at the moment, we will open for public comment at 5:19. Seeing no one jumping to public comment, we will close for public comment at 5:19. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Once, twice. If not, I will be happy to make a motion. I move to approve the conditional zoning request for the property located at 234 Hendersonville Road from Office OFF1 and Highway Business HB to Highway Business HB, and find that the request is reasonable, is in the public interest, is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, and meets the development needs of the community in that the request, 1, prioritizes growth and development within designated growth areas, and 2, establishes accessible and well-connected commercial nodes consistent with strategies outlined in the plan's growth areas.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Ost. Applicant, thank you.
Thank you. Do we know when this might get to the City Council?
I'm sorry?
Do we know when this might get to the City Council?
Yeah, at this point, we are on track for a city council date of February 28th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more rezoning this evening. It's a request to rezone property located at 43 Redfern Street from institutional conditional zoning, INSTCZ, to residential multifamily medium density RM8. The property is identified as PIN 9628954517 in the Buncombe County Tax Record. Property owner is West Asheville Baptist Church Incorporated, and the contact is Larry Ward. Planner coordinating review is Will Palmquist.
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned, this is a rezoning request for the property at 43 Redfern Street. Here you can see its location in the West Asheville neighborhood, just a property or so south of Haywood Road. You can see the residential uses to the south of the subject property, community uses such as the West Asheville Community Center and Public Library to the north, and the West Asheville Baptist Church to the east across Lyndale Ave, who are the one of the owners or the owner of this property. The property itself is 0.29 acres. Here you can see the existing zoning, institutional conditional zone, and the request is to rezone the property to residential multifamily medium density RM8, consistent with the rest of the surrounding neighborhood. The future land use, as designated in Living Asheville's comprehensive plan, is traditional neighborhood. No change is required. So the rezoning request is consistent with the future land use map of traditional neighborhood, which is described in part as a diverse range of housing types and an intersecting street pattern with cross streets forming blocks. The rezoning also supports a number of goals in the plan, such as to increase and diversify the housing supply by promoting zoning policies to encourage more housing, and also to celebrate the unique identity of neighborhoods through creative placemaking by preserving neighborhood identity with the development and maintenance of housing that is affordable to a wide range of income levels. Also note that the RM8 zoning district is described to permit a full range of medium-density multifamily housing types along with single-family detached and attached residences. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning, and I'd be glad to answer questions. We also have the applicant with us here this evening.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
I just have one question. So the current zoning being institutional, is there anything in the institutional zoning that would preclude this being a single-family residence? Understanding that RM8 maybe more closely aligns with the use, but.
Yeah, I believe institutional allows for dwelling units, but as this is a conditional zone, there's very specific uses enumerated in it, which I do not believe include dwelling units. So in order for this to be used for residential purposes, it would have to be rezoned.
Gotcha, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So more the conditions of that, excuse me, CZ as opposed to just in general institution allowing it.
Correct. It could potentially be rezoned to other districts that would allow for residential, get it out of the conditional zoning caveats. But yeah, this one being the most obvious one.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The applicant wish to make any comments or add anything further?
I'll make one comment.
Sure, come on up.
Just a piece of,
If you want to introduce yourself for the record too, please.
sorry.
If you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Larry Ward, representing West Asheville Baptist Church. Thank y'all for considering this. So the church bought this piece of property. It was a residence back in the 80s, I believe, when they had a fire and they needed some additional space for meetings. And so at that time, we believe it was rezoned to institutional so they could use it for that purpose. And so the church no longer needs this piece of property, so they want to sell it as a residence. And there's not really been any changes to the property except for how they were using it. So that's the reason for this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, comments, questions from the commission? Seems, again, another fairly straightforward, again, cleaning up some lagging zoning probably, or miszoned properties over the years, which happens a lot. So we'll go ahead and open for public comment at 5:26. And again, seeing no rush for public comment, we will close public comment at 5:26. Anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move to approve the conditional zoning request for the property located at 43 Redfern Street from institutional conditional zoning, INSST-CZ, to residential multifamily medium density, RM8, and find that the request is reasonable, is in the public interest, is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, and meets the development needs of the community, in that the request, 1, promotes zoning policies to encourage more housing, and 2, preserves neighborhood identity with the development and maintenance of housing that is affordable to a wide range of income levels.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Ward.
Thank you.
That concludes the, actual portion of our meeting this evening. I'll go back to just, I guess, the informal discussion we were having briefly before we got started. If there's any other comments, I know Kelsey, you came in a little late. We were just having a brief discussion about potential retreat times, topics, things like that. And I think what we came to is Will's going to put together a doodle poll with sometime in March. You may have caught that. I can't remember when exactly you walked in, but we've got some topics, roughly lined out with the annual report and some of the comments that came in from that. So the idea of possibly doing it at a community center out in the neighborhood center out in the community might be a possibility as well. I think to connect with people. So yeah. So yeah, I don't know, Will, when you think you might do that. And obviously, I don't know, again, I don't use the doodle polls, but obviously we can use email too to maybe come up with the combination and come up with maybe a list of topics, and people can say, hey, I like this one, or suggest other things as well
I
too.
can attach the annual report, and folks can kind of pick some of their ideas from there. Things like looking at growth pressures in South Asheville, opportunities for stormwater management enhancements.
Yep.
So if we know areas, well, obviously South Asheville, if we know areas that have stormwater issues, maybe that's an option too. Were we thinking more of like an evening retreat or during the day, or?
I know the last one we did, it was noon to 4.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember exactly time. I mean,
What would it be like?
I think just in the scheme of, or the realization that people have other things, that at least thinking about a half a day, and then maybe if we do think about some of those maybe mid-month work session types of things, maybe would be a good way to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know when I've done some full-day retreats with multimodal, there's a point in time which you just start to lose it. So
I think 3 or 4 hours is a good time.
Yeah.
Would you prefer more of a noon to 4, or more like in the evening? I guess I have the option open. Folks can give their preference in the poll.
yeah, I mean, personally, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion in one way, but I also don't have family or anything else either. So
Yeah.
maybe more of effect. You don't have kids. You do.
Evenings are tough.
Okay. Sure. No, that's good to know. Yep. You can certainly do during the day. That's fine for me.
Do what?
Depends on the evening.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'll suggest a time. Maybe we'll do that noon to 4 kind of
Okay.
thing, and then it's just a matter of figuring out which day works the best
All right.
and what topics folks will be interested in, and then just lining up folks to come and present and be there to help share their knowledge on the things that we're interested in learning more and talking more about. And,
Yeah. Okay. I know we had the brief discussion too, if we would want to use a facilitator or not.
Mhm.
Does the city doesn't have an actual facilitator, right? That's my understanding. I mean, I don't,
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, not anymore.
Okay.
We used to in our HR department have
Yeah.
somebody who's pretty skilled at that. I don't know. I mean, I guess we can check and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of service we have to contract
Or
for.
check with boards and commissions to see if they're,
Mhm.
you know, we have so many boards and commissions. If, I would be surprised if we're not.
Is there
trying
somebody
to-
that's being used?
Trying
Yeah.
to do more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check with the clerk's office and see if they,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And again, I don't know that we necessarily have to. We didn't last year, but
No, sometimes it can
may or
be
may not be.
helpful.
It may be helpful.
Mhm.
I think one of my thinkings in the back of my head of, oh, having it in a neighborhood community center sounds great. Oh, but then what if a bunch of the community shows up and it's like, which
Democracy.
it could be good, but obviously, if we do that, maybe having a facilitator for something like that may be good to help steer it so it doesn't. I think it needs to be. Obviously, it's a public forum.
Yeah,
but,
you wouldn't necessarily.
It's not a public forum.
It's
It's
taking public comment.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be open to the public, but you wouldn't necessarily have to open it for public comment.
Yeah,
You could
exactly.
choose to if it seems worthwhile.
Sure.
But, not gonna, they could stare icily at you and that'd be bad.
It's
True.
interesting, I work for like maybe the next month, I'm in the Biltmore Park area, and
Mhm.
there's so much going on along Shoals right now. It's
Yeah.
gonna look totally different.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if there's, I don't know. That probably wasn't going anywhere because I don't know if there's like any community efforts down there really.
Well, I'm even trying to think.
It's a budding community.
Well, and that was kind of my thinking of looking at, do we do it at a neighborhood community center so that we can focus on, let's just say stormwater, because I think it was it Britton or Jennifer had brought that up as a potential topic to talk about.
Mhm.
And I think it's certainly something that we should look at, and do we look at it there where there are that was my thinking of doing it somewhere where we could even be, if the community center, because a lot of them are next to parks or something, you can you're not just sitting in and looking at a screen, you can kind of stand outside and we can talk about things, as opposed to,
If it rained that day, you
Act-
probably could see it.
yeah, exactly, having something that's maybe a little more active too, which keeps us all awake for 4
Yes.
hours. So maybe, I can't go down to South Asheville a lot. I feel like there is a community center there, I just don't know where. Like, I don't think it's towards Long Shoals, I feel like it's probably further back in,
There's Jake Rusher Park, but that just
They
has a
don't-
bathroom.
yeah, they don't really have anything there.
Shiloh has one, but
Shiloh, but that maybe is closer in than I think where the real development
further
pressures
south,
that we're
yeah.
talking about are.
Yep.
And like, so I say, I don't know that there is anything
Mhm.
down that
Maybe it's a
direction.
school, and maybe like what,
Yeah.
because the Western has their
Yeah.
extension thing. If you wanted a room, we've had classes there, but then you're in Biltmore Park.
Yeah,
Or I don't know, maybe.
Anyway,
Look at
it
some of the
just-
developments that might have built a community room, some of the ones that have been approved, I'm not sure if they have any. No,
that's true, yeah, maybe one of the apartment complexes.
Another idea, coming back into town, closer into town, is the Grant Center open during construction, or is that facility closed? Because
Good
that
question.
could be cool,
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
little construction tour.
Yeah,
midway
that would be
through
neat.
the retreat. And
I
Yeah,
feel like
talk
they
about
were
what that sounds like.
trying to keep programs open there.
check, it's a great building too.
Yeah.
We haven't been in it, we have a green roof and all
Yeah.
that stuff, so.
Yeah. Come on in, we're done with the actual official meeting, sorry, Brent.
Let's let Brent make a motion to adjourn then.
Oh, yeah, now that he's in, we're waiting for you to come, actually.
I apologize for my tardiness.
You're good.
Sorry, it's personal, family.
It happens. We were just having an informal discussion just about retreat and topics and just trying to plot some of that stuff out. Will's gonna send out a doodle poll with some potential dates, times, and try to come up with something probably mid-March for second week of March. So, yeah, look for that. So, otherwise,
That's good with me.
that's about it.
And just, I apologize for my tardiness, sorry.
You're good. Any commissioners have any other questions? Anything we want to chat about. Otherwise, we're gonna have second shortest meeting in my 5.5
I'm
years.
sure I'll pay for it sooner or later. Enjoy it while I can.
I paid for plenty already.
Yeah, you got plenty.
I'm good.
Now that I'm here, I'd like to make
That's what we're thinking.
Just one last plug for all our millions of listeners to weigh in on the county's comp plan, soliciting kind of feedback
Yes.
on the draft.
That's correct. Yeah, they are on their big countywide tour of libraries and speaking of community centers, I know they're gonna be at the North Asheville Library next Tuesday. I feel like it's not like they're doing any kind of circular. I mean, feel like they made it harder on themselves because they're just going randomly. But yeah,
Not to
I
help the
think
traveling
there's
salesman.
two more weeks, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's about it for that,
For
that
the draft
aspect of culture.
portion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, where they're gonna be out at
Okay.
libraries and community centers soliciting public comment, and also online too.
Yep.
So, yeah. Great plug for all those
Yeah.
people out watching.
Absolutely. All our fans.
The three that are out there. So, anyway, Mr. Fairclough? That's true, you already bought a roll call.
Mr. Blomquist would be upset, and so would the city lawyer.
That's true. Well, that concludes everything with the meeting that we have tonight. The next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission will be on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, pre-meeting at 4:30, meeting at 5 p.m. here in the same room. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Take the easy ones
The
over.
reason I was asking you, I remember years ago, like, we were working on some.
No, we did. We did. 4. Yeah, no, 4. It's okay.
It was mostly outdoor.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say because Kelsey
Yeah.
which is fine, but I was just kind of like, okay, how long do I stall it? Do I just call it?
Not